Hello, fellow fantasy sports fans. Welcome to MFSN, the Hub's fantasy baseball strategy show, Thursdays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. I'm Dr. Dan Ratner, and I'm here, as always, with Casey, Vlad to the Bone Scheinvold, and Ross the Boss.
Hey, everybody. Ross the Boss, coming live from La La Land, Lipstick City. We're here to talk baseball, my favorite sport, Casey Scheinvold. Your Yankees are playing good. Not great, but they're playing good.
7-1 is pretty good.
The Guardians started out with a minor league team. They started out with the season, so they look good. But now they're playing real teams. So we'll see what the Guardians do.
I was going to say, they started out with a minor league team. You mean they were playing minor league teams?
They
or
are
a minor league
team. I mean, Casey Scheinvold and I both know the Oakland A's, the shirt I'm wearing, is a minor league team.
See, I thought you were saying that the Guardians started off as a minor league team, and now they might not be. And I was like, if they started that way, they're still that way.
No, now they're playing real teams and real baseball teams. So, we'll see how they do. My Reds are playing baseball. The Pirates were undefeated until yesterday. They took their first loss, but the Pirates, I would say, Casey, them and the Tigers, the big surprise in baseball so far.
Are they legit?
The Pirates, yeah. The Tigers, a lot of people liked because of their young stars. So I don't know if they're as surprising as the Pirates, but yeah. I mean, who have the Tigers played? The Mets? Let's be honest there, if we're talking about minor league teams right now. But yeah, I think they're the two surprises. And then, my Yankees are doing great, but the biggest surprise was they swept Houston 4-0. So Houston's a surprise in the other direction, although they've righted the ship a little bit against Toronto.
Yeah.
Guys, we're almost halfway through the first week. So, I think we'll figure out who the good teams and bad teams are right now, right, Casey? I mean, if your team's not winning now, you should just give up, correct?
I agree. I think we just give the Yankees the World Series and move on. Yankees, Pirates for 7 games, and let's call it the season.
Now, of course, most people who are tuning into this show want to know about fantasy sports players, so we can talk about which teams are for real, but we also got to talk about which players are for real. And before we get to any of that, we got to deal with some injury stuff. There's a lot of injuries coming in already. Casey and I, both of our teams have been hit hard by injuries. I had Matt McClain before the season even started. Then Josh Jung, broken wrist.
He
was raking before that. Yep. Everybody Josh Jung tonight. And so that was very disappointing for me. But Casey, you've had two big ones yourself. You want to talk about them?
Well, I mean, the biggest one is Royce Lewis. I mean, as we all were big fans, I was probably the biggest fan of him coming into the preseason. And the worst part is it's like a severe quad strain rounding second base. So it wasn't even, he's
going to need to do that again.
He had the 2 ACL injuries. And I read somewhere he said in an interview afterwards, I guess I'm just too electric for my own body or something like that, which I didn't like.
I feel the same way, guys. I get the same injuries because I feel I'm too electric for my body too. I feel it.
So that, I mean, of my injuries, that was the most significant, but also Yuri Perez.
I was going to say, I was
just got announced that he's undergoing Tommy John surgery. And so now
that's a bigger one though.
That's in my dynasty league. So I can just hold on to him.
Well, you have Royce Lewis in the dynasty league also, don't you?
Yeah, I have them both in dynasty. Yeah. I have Royce Lewis in a couple other leagues also.
I do too.
So I have Yuri Perez and Royce Lewis in the same league. That's
Ross. Who's hurting your team? By hurting?
My injuries are actually started before the season. I have Walker Buehler is coming back in 2 weeks.
Okay, but you drafted him hurt, which is a little different.
I drafted him, but the good news about him is, he's been pitching in the minor leagues, and
that's going well.
He'll have 2 more starts in the minor leagues, and then he'll be activated. So I expect big things from Buehler. If he's not taking in your league for some crazy reason, pick him up now because he will be back in the majors within 2 weeks.
Yeah, so Ross, that's actually an example of the opposite that some fantasy managers are getting, where they drafted somebody injured and they're coming back earlier. I have the same thing with Max Scherzer. I know I was the highest of the 3 of us on Max Scherzer going into the season, and it looks like he is going to come back earlier. Does that mean it's going to translate? I don't know, but he's got a great track record, and they're not putting him on the 60-day DL, so they're expecting him back sooner. So when you get news updates like that, it's exciting. Now, let's talk about some other headlines. Let me ask you this question, because closers always drive us crazy. Who's your annoying closer of the week? We should just have that every time. Annoying closer of the week. Who's
JC,
driving
go
you
first.
crazy?
You know what I'm saying.
How about
I know what you're saying for sure.
Jason Foley?
Jason Foley's your annoying closer of the week. Tell
Only
us why.
because everybody thought it was going
like
to be. I know. Well, I own him, and I'm happy because I picked him up. But I'm just saying, everybody thought in Detroit it was going to be Lang or Lange or whatever his name is, and that's what it was. All spring training. Then like season
See, I was
comes,
assuming that's Ross's annoying
boom.
closer of the week, but I'll have to ask.
No, it's not. I mean, he was on my list because exactly what he just said. But mine is Alexis Diaz.
Oh,
Edwin
Reds fan.
Edwin Diaz's younger brother. I mean, he's just awful. He's not a closer. For some reason, they think he's a closer. He shouldn't be closing any games. He just gets rocked anytime he's in any position to close a game.
He just closed out a game last night.
Yeah, but before that, it was just, I mean, he was up 4-1. When you remember the lead of 3 runs, it's different than having a 1-run lead.
It is different, but he shut the door. I don't know.
I guess if you want to say he shut the door, that's fine. For me, it's just annoying because we have these close games and Diaz comes in and he always blows it. So for me, it's Alexis.
Wasn't he an all-star last year?
Sell. He's nobody you want to keep on your team.
He had a great first half. He had a terrible second half. He started this year looking like the terrible second half, but last night, I'm hoping you righted the ship because I have him in one of my leagues.
Oh, you do? Yeah. I mean, I'm a Reds fan. I'm allowed to say it. So
anyone's allowed to say it, but you especially.
I'm allowed to say it, but you know who else looks good? Who's getting the form he had the first half of last season is your guy Estevez for the Angels, who we had on the show before as a guest.
Right.
He's been the Angels have been winning. I mean, I know they're playing Miami, but still they're winning games, and he's getting the saves. I mean, I kind of like Carlos Estevez, which is the same name as Charlie Sheen.
Now, my annoying closer of the week is Jose Alvarado. He did well recently, but in his first game, I think he had 5 earned runs with like 6 hits or walks. So my ERA in our dynasty league is still over 10, I believe, because I just haven't had enough innings to make up for it. He's my annoying closer of the week. And closers, I'm just, they deserve this smackdown on the show. They are annoying as hell. They're the top most annoying players. But the injuries are the other thing. Are there other injuries or big headlines that you want to talk about fantasy players before we dive into potential pickups, people to trade for, trends you're looking at? What do you guys have on your mind?
I mean, I drafted Julio Rodriguez first round in our league, and he is not hit to potentially be a first round pick right now.
Yeah, but it's so early.
I mean, it's early, but he's somebody I'm kind of disappointed on. I might even bench him for Christian Yelich because he's sitting over 300. I know it sounds crazy, but I mean, I'm already kind of benching players like Edwin Encarnacion Strand for the Reds. He started out slow, and he's still slow. So I'm starting
Christian Encarnacion.
Yeah, he's not Jewish. And
Edwin Encarnacion Strand would be an amalgamation.
That's a child of Edwin Encarnacion and Christian Encarnacion Strand.
It's a long name, guys. When the back of the shirt, it looks like Chico Bell buns in the back. It's a long name. I get it, but I mean, there's players that are just not suited for April. I would hate to say it, but these guys just don't start out quick. And I'm benching some of them. I don't care if I drafted them first or second. It doesn't matter.
No, if they're not playing well, I mean,
I'm taking the hot hitter. I mean, I'm taking the guys that are hot. I'm going to sit. I'm not going to waive them. I'm not waiving people. I'm just going to sit people.
And how long will you sit them, Ross?
Great question. Until they start at least getting.
So you're willing to miss, maybe a 4 for 4 with 2 homer kind of night, so that you can avoid 3 or 4 straight games.
It's being a manager, Casey and Dan. You got to play manager. You got to put that hat on. And sometimes you just got to sit people if they're not playing well, if they're not hitting, if their batting average is under 200, and you have guys on the bench that are hitting a lot better. You start the bench guys. Start it up. Go.
See, for me, I wouldn't do that 7 games into the season. I mean, in football, I 100% agree. You have like 17 games or 16 games. You can't afford to lose 2 or 3 because you're sticking stubbornly with your top choices or your top draft picks. In baseball is a long season. Everybody goes through a slump. I would rather deal with Julio Rodriguez going on a 2 for 14 with 6 strikeouts spell than take the chance of having 2 home runs or 3 stolen bases or whatever sitting on my bench, because there's so many. You have like 10 to 12 offensive players starting on most of these teams. You can absorb the bad games that way occasionally. So I might be stubborn in that respect when it comes to my best players, but I tend
to be pretty stubborn, but I often base my decisions based on where my regret will lie. If I sat my best player and I drafted him high and then he goes off on the bench, it's going to drive me crazy more than, and especially if I plug in some other guy and he goes 0 for 4, that's going to drive me crazy. So, but I do agree with Ross that at a certain point, you really have to think about it, especially if they have trends where early in the season, they just never hit. I mean, Eugenio Suarez is a great example. His average isn't great throughout the year, but in April, he's almost unplayable, generally speaking. Now, my question about this is, how do you guys run your teams in relation to pitching? To me, pitching, I'm more likely to bench a guy if he's not pitching well, because pitching numbers can blow up fast. However, I also run the risk of falling way behind on my innings, as Casey definitely knows. Ross, I think you've probably picked that up too. I fall behind on my innings. I'm doing it already again because I'm testing things out, and I get mixed results. One guy that I haven't started yet is Carlos Rodon. I don't even know if I should actually roster this guy. So that's my next question for you guys.
Casey, you're Yankee. You're a Yankee expert. Carlos Rodon, would you pick him up if you had a chance to?
If he's free, I'm going to pick him up and put him on my bench, because we haven't seen him pitch as a Yankee yet. He was signed last year and got hurt pretty quickly and was not healthy. And I'm willing to let that guy sit on my bench for as long as 5 or 6 weeks until
because of his upside,
because of the upside, the 200 plus strikeout upside.
Yeah.
So that's not a fair example, but somebody like, we all predict, a lot of us were high, and I'm one of them, on Bailey Ober in Minnesota at the start of the season. The guy's got electric stuff, and he was, what was it? He didn't even make it out of the second inning, I don't think. And he was just getting shellacked.
Got rocked.
That's the question becomes with them. One of the things we fall into the trap with is, if we're high on a guy preseason, we're willing to overlook obvious red flags. And if the guy is walking 5 batters per 9, I don't care how high I was on him preseason. I got to be willing to say, he can't find the strike zone, he's got to move on. And it's being willing to let go of those bold predictions or your breakout players.
Yeah, and how fast do you have to pounce on guys? Our cover guy this for this one is Garret Crochet. How fast do you have to pounce on him? He's probably long gone in almost.
I picked him up before opening day. I picked him up as soon as I heard he had the opening day spot.
Yeah. What did you say, Ross?
I think it's 48% rostered. I'm looking.
48%. That's crazy.
That could be old though.
Let me look.
I did my things yesterday, so I don't know.
I remember this was when Cliff Lee was emerging as an ace. It was the first year that he was dominant, and it was probably 1 or 2 starts into the season. I scooped him up, and it was in a league where you could add free agents instead of waiver wire. I just snatched him right away. I won the league, and it was in large measure because of him. Yeah. So I think when you see a guy like that, make it a priority. If he cools off, fine, but you're looking for lightning in a bottle in a lot of these roster spots, and he's looking like that to me. Ross, do you agree with that? I know Casey was high on him.
Yeah, I like him. It's just he plays on a bad team, which is fine. I don't know how many wins he'll have, just because the White Sox bullpen is horrible.
Yeah, the issue with Crochet is also he's never been a starter. So are they really he's going to get 100?
How many innings? Right.
120 innings might be his max this year.
I got to say also, there's concerns that I have about, whether these pitchers can hold up mentally and how it's going to play out physically, because we are teaching society in general. It's teaching players that they are fragile, and this innings count and the pitch count. I understand being cautious, but I actually think it's going way too far.
We baby these players so much now compared to Bob Gibson threw 300 innings like this season. He pitched all 9 innings.
This is
he
right
said
in
the word
Dr. Dan's
pick me out.
wheelhouse. The whole
It is
mind,
exactly
body,
in my
mental health.
wheelhouse. Yes.
So drop Nestor for Crochet.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I would. Yeah.
Nestor got rocked yesterday. It was yesterday, the day
Look,
before. He got like rocked.
Nestor was good 2 years ago, and I'm saying this as a Yankees fan. I
Yeah.
like Luigi, the pizza delivery guy.
I like Luigi.
But he got away with, because he had a quirky delivery and threw from multiple angles. I honestly, he never had overwhelming stuff. I think the league kind of figured him out. I don't think he's going to be a top 40 pitcher, top 30 pitcher this season. So
How dare you? I agree. Nestor
How
is
dare you?
not-
I agree.
you know who's like, what team is just, I talked about earlier, is just their pitching staff is just so young and so rock solid. I think it's the Pirates. What do you guys think about Jared Jones? He's one of those rookie guys that they brought up. It's starting. I mean, his stuff is nasty. I mean, this guy has all the potential of being like an all-star, I think.
Well,
is it somebody that you guys would pick up on your team? I mean, I picked him up in a lot of leagues. I believe in this Jared Jones. I think he's the real thing.
yeah, Jared Jones he was a top 50 prospect, I think, coming into the year, or top 60. I forget what the number was exactly. He's got wipeout stuff with his off speed and his fastball. The problem for him is, I don't think he knows how to pitch yet. So he's still going to give up home runs. He's still going to give up the big inning every once in a while. And so you're going to have to deal with a lot of strikeouts, but probably a 3.7 to 4 or more ERA, maybe even a little over 4, just because he's young and doesn't have
It's true, but
control and command stuff.
But I think, and this
I'm not saying I wouldn't pick him up. I'm just saying it's what you got to be prepared for.
Well, okay, so I would rather have a guy like Jared Jones. Speaking of, should I drop Nestor for him? I'd rather have Jared Jones than Nestor because of the upside. I mean, when you look at this one game that Jared Jones had, 10 strikeouts in 5 and 2/3 innings.
Yeah,
that's electric. And if you're getting stuff like that, let's say he starts to harness this. These are the kind of pitchers that could dominate your league. They could win you the league. Nestor's not going to win you your league no matter what. I'm not saying to not have anybody like Nestor, and I'm also not trying to rip on Nestor. I'm just saying he doesn't have the upside. So
Poor Nestor.
I don't think you need all of your spots to be upside. I actually like some of my spots to be, I know Sonny Gray's injured right now, but he's the kind of pitcher I like having maybe in one roster spot. So you got some solidity there, but you need to have guys like Garret Crochet or Jared Jones that seem like you could catch lightning in a bottle. If you get those, you basically want to, this is the way I look at my roster spots. I want to maximize each roster spot almost like they're tryouts. And as soon as you win that spot, you're staying, and if I keep doing that, my roster is going to get better and better and better.
That's a good philosophy. I like that.
Yeah. And then, this is another reason why, as you guys know, I like 2-for-1 deals because it opens up roster spaces so I can have more tryouts. Because you're not going to get lightning in a bottle in every single situation.
I want to get a tryout in that roster spot. I want to try out, Dr. Dan. Make it happen.
You already made the team, Ross. But, you did have a tryout. You passed with flying colors, and here we are.
There's somebody else I've been picking up in some of my leagues. I mean, like this year, I think I'm in 13 leagues.
Oh, my God. 13 leagues.
I know. Just leave me alone.
He's a junkie.
I picked up because he looks good as his health is back. And when he was healthy, he was like the top 10 pitcher in the National League. But now he pitches for Detroit. It's Jack Flannery. I think this guy's back. I think his health is back. And I think it's somebody that could have a good year. What do you guys think about Jack Flannery for the Tigers?
I like him as a back end guy, a tryout guy. And I don't mean that lightly, actually. The guys I'm giving tryouts, I have high hopes for. So I probably would give him a tryout of 2 to 3 weeks, see how he's doing. You might even spot start him if he's playing against the A's. Well, if he's playing against the A's for sure, but playing against most half the teams in the league.
Yeah, I was gonna say the advantage of him is he pitches in Detroit, which is a pitcher's park, and they have a solid defense with Parker Meadows and those guys in the outfield. And the Central is not that strong of a division. So a lot of the times he's going against the Guardians, the White Sox, even the Twins with Royce Lewis hurt are not a very scary offense. And it's only a matter of time before Buxton gets hurt. So there's he's one of those guys who's worth, I think, the risk. He's one of those guys, Dan, you were talking about, who I might leave him on my bench more often than with other guys, depending on the matchup, or until he proves to me that he's got the stuff back.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I'd put him in the similar camp to Rodon, in that I think Rodon is higher up in the echelon because of how dominant he was when he pitched as well as he did. But it's a similar kind of player to roster. So I like that pick, Ross. Who else would you have at the back end of your roster to evaluate and think about?
Did you guys see the pitcher? Got his first name, Hicks, for San Francisco, was on the
Jordan Hicks.
Jordan Hicks.
Yeah, I have him. I own him.
He was St. Louis had no idea what they were doing with him. They made him like a closer, then they had him at bullpen. All these other things. They never gave him the starter opportunity. He started for the Giants the other day, and he looked great. I mean, stuff was great. He wasn't tired. He pitched 6 or 7 strong innings. I mean, that's an example of like an organization that takes these players and just destroys them. I mean, this guy, no one really gave him a chance as a starter, and he begged the Giants to do it, and it came through. And he's somebody else that I'm picking up. I mean, somebody else that I think is going to have a good year. What do you guys think about Jordan Hicks?
I not only am high on Jordan Hicks in just the ways you're talking about, but I'm also just high on the Giants. Like,
oh, you are. I'm not, but
I don't mean as a team. I mean as a team that can handle pitchers.
Oh yeah, okay.
You know, it's like, and it's the same thing with Tampa Bay. You know, they turn all of these pitchers into great pitchers. This is why Pepio was somebody.
Houston does it too.
Houston does it too. It's really it's interesting.
Colorado too.
It's the Colorado as well. You wanted to sweep
that's Mike Hampton and Denny Nagel.
Denny Nagel, blast in the past.
And Mike Hampton. Remember, they were supposed to be the aces.
Yeah, they were
that rotation.
Oh my God.
Hampton. Who else? No, I don't want to badmouth guys, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of other. There was another Colorado pitcher who was actually really good for one season. Who am I thinking?
Then he went to Baltimore.
Yes, that's who I'm talking about. We got to pull Ubaldo Jimenez.
That's who it was. Yep.
Yeah. So, but you did not want to mess with the Rockies, but not on pitching anyway. But it is really interesting how different organizations can be trusted with, and actually those organizations can change also. So pay attention to the culture. Because my Guardians, then Indians, we used to not be able to manage pitchers. We never had good pitchers, almost never.
Then you got Terry Francona.
I don't know what it may have been Francona, but something turned it around where then we had multiple Cy Young winners for a while there. That was before Francona, because we had Sabathia, we had Cliffley, Bartolo Colon, but we didn't used to have that. So watch out for the culture of teams. I mean, Baltimore, that's a team whose culture has really changed. And I'm wondering, is the Pirates culture now starting to change? Is the Tigers culture
the problem with the Pirates is everybody, I mean, it doesn't affect us in fantasy necessarily, but as soon as they get near free agency, you know they're going to be traded, because the Pirates owners are notorious for not investing their money in the team.
Right. And that's part of the culture. That's part of the culture. So you can't really trust it. All right, let's talk about some trade targets, because, you know, we talk a lot about strategy on this show because it is the strategy show. At this point in the season, are you starting to loosen the reins on considering dealing certain people, trading for certain people, or is it still too early in your mind?
I am in a position where I'm willing to buy low on players who I value, who might be off to a slow start, because I think they're just going to get better. I'm not going to give up on any of my best players who are struggling yet, but I might sell an overachieving person if it could work. Like, I mean, right now you got, like Ross mentioned, Julio Rodriguez is ranked 509 in Yahoo rankings right now. He was number 3 preseason. Trey Turner is ranked 201. Matt Olson is at 278. Like, these guys are.
He's all my guys too. Just your mention.
Aaron Judge is at 400. You know, there's going to be frustrated owners out there, and you can probably get them for good value. You'll still have to give up a lot to get them, but it's still, if you're looking at it as a math equation, you're still getting the better side of that in terms of value for the player.
Right.
Now, would you guys trade, let's say, Mookie Betts who's overachieving, you have on your team.
Overachieving.
This guy,
he was preseason top 3.
well, I mean, he's hitting.
But he's risen to number 1.
He's hitting 500, and he has 5 home runs. He's just tearing the cover off the ball, and
if you could sell him for a king's ransom, I think you do it.
That's what I was thinking. Like guys that are like not overachieving, but hitting the ball really hard and hitting and playing really well.
Well, like for example,
is that somebody you would want to trade? I mean, is that somebody you would want to maybe do a blockbuster deal for and just trade him away and get like 2 or 3 like all-stars? You know what I mean?
Well, first, let me say something that it's obvious, but it still needs to be said. If you're in a dynasty or a keeper league and he's playing like this, trade him immediately. He's older. He's at high value.
Yeah, you can have the most stocked young roster with trading him.
But even in a redraft league, like if you made an offer, let's say you are trading Mookie Betts and you're getting back, let's say you get Ozzie Albies and an ace.
And like Ozzie Albies and Wyatt Langford.
I would do that. Yes, I would do that. Yeah. Would you, Casey?
I mean, look, it depends on the rest of my roster. If I need a second baseman, yeah. But it could be O'Neal Cruz. It could be, you could pick whatever position because
right. But if you're dealing Mookie Betts, right? I guess because Mookie Betts has the multiple position now.
Right. It depends where I'm using him. I mean,
it's
that's what
hard,
makes him
it's
so
hard
valuable.
for me to envision playing Mookie Betts anywhere but second base unless you have.
Is he eligible at shortstop yet? I didn't check.
Yes,
he is.
He is.
Yes,
okay.
in most leagues anyway.
I think after 5 starts or something, they make him.
There are some leagues where it's 10, but most leagues are 5.
Yeah, he's 5. But
I mean, if you have Teoscar Hernandez, who's been awesome, and by the way, I believe in him. I think he's going to have a really good year. But I mean, not the number 3 ranked player in fantasy. Like he's just 4 home runs, 10 RBIs already. He's somebody I would try to flip into Aaron Judge. Or flip into some other underachieving
100%.
guy.
Let me ask you this: Would you trade for an injured player like Josh Jung, who looked really good, and now you can get him for a lot cheaper? Would you trade for him?
How much? How long is he out for? With broken wrist? What's that?
Broken wrist is probably 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
If it's a redraft league, I wouldn't want him.
I wouldn't because I'd be worried about the
dynasty league.
Power.
Absolutely. I mean, he's under 25. He plays in Texas, which is
he was looking really good.
Yeah, batting over 400. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends what league you're in. If it's redraft, no. Dynasty or keeper, yes.
Okay, Brooks Durham is weighing in on this. He says they said longer than 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, it's wrist. I mean, that's I've hurt my wrist.
Yeah,
before.
at least 6
I've broken every bone in my body.
6 weeks. Yeah.
I mean, I've broken everything from my toes to my hands, and the wrist is very hard to come back when you're a baseball player.
Well, especially because in terms of getting that bat speed around,
it's all wrist.
Yeah. Yep.
I
don't know. Maybe it's because I roster him in our dynasty league. I'm holding out hope that he's.
I still trust me. If I had him, I'm holding him. But
you put him on IR. I mean, it's not that hard. But
that is a no-brainer.
And if you do have him and you put him on IR, somebody that you should pick up because I'm wearing the T-shirt and it's hitting the ball like a madman is J.D. Davis. He's eligible at first base and third base, Casey Scheinfeld, and I think that this guy is just going to have a big year. For some reason, I just feel he's going to. In the Mets, when he played for the Mets, he was all this hype, and he never really fit the shoes. You know what I mean?
San Francisco, he did pretty well.
San Francisco, he did well.
Was it San Francisco or Oakland, where he did? Was he?
Well, he's in Oakland now.
Where he did well, but now he's in Oakland.
Now he's in Oakland. But what do you guys think about if you have Jung?
Did I see an article today? They're going to be the Sacramento A's for a couple of years.
They're moving to West Sacramento starting in 2025, which is next year.
This is while they wait for Vegas?
And that's going to be a 2-year deal. And then in 2028, we'll invite all our listeners to go to Vegas for the opening of that new stadium, which they're tearing down, I think, this month. They're going to tear down the Tropicana to build it. And we'll fly everybody there on Dr. Dan's dime, and we'll have a great time that opening weekend. I'm excited.
Notice my face just froze.
Ross's statements do not reflect what's the legal disclaimer.
Yes, these are not official MFSN.
But yes, Casey, they are moving to Sacramento, which I think is a good move.
Michael Garcia in Kansas City is another third baseman you could pick up who's been playing really well.
That's a good one. I like Garcia.
I thought about both of them, but JD Davis is really an under the radar player to pick up, especially because, listen, hopefully with Jung, he's going to be back in 6 weeks. If you can get a good 3 weeks even out of JD Davis, so it's just like you're minimizing the damage. That's good. Use the wire. That's one way to use the wire is just find.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to pick somebody up. So my suggestion is Davis. Casey likes Garcia. Just depends how big your league is and who's available. But I think most leagues Davis is available.
Yeah, a lot of leagues. What about Duran on the Rangers?
Is he eligible at third base? Is he?
He is in most leagues, I believe.
Cool.
Yeah.
I liked him last year. Casey and I, in our waiver wire show, which we're premiering next Tuesday.
Uncle Ted loves him. I don't know where you are, Uncle Ted. Come comment on him.
I mean, Duran was a streak hitter. I mean, he was somebody that Casey and I would scream and jump up and down about one week, and the next week we said waive him.
Yeah, so, but I'm not saying like he's your long-term solution, but if you're looking for some lightning in a bottle to take a couple of the weeks out of the sting of Josh Jung being lost,
I would ride the JD Davis.
I agree with you.
Scoring the ball. Look at his stats.
JD Davis and Michael Garcia, I would put above Duran. I'm just posing another idea. Now, what are some other injuries so Yuri Perez? Let's say you lost him in your staff. Crochet obviously is a guy to pick up. I've got a couple other ideas in mind that I just want to see what you guys think, but. Frankie Montas, what do you guys think about him? Reds fan. I'll turn it over to you. I love when
you bring up Reds players. I love it. I like Montes, but I like better, and he's available also. Is Hey Abbott? I like Abbott. I like Andrew Abbott.
Hey, Abbott.
I love Abbott. He pitched well his first start. I love this kid. He never gets any respect in fantasy at all. But Montes, again, he pitched his first 2 starts for the Reds. He looked good. I mean, I can't.
I'm down on him because he was a Yankee last year, and I had to experience that. So that's emotional for me. So I can't really comment.
Love it.
But he was dynamite in Oakland when he was right before he came over. I mean, Brady Singer and Tanner Houck, Brady Singer of the Royals and Tanner Houck of the Boston Red Sox are 2 guys who aren't very highly owned and who pitched. Brady Singer, and they're both good prospects. Brady Singer was a great prospect. He might have finally figured it out, but they both have double-digit strikeouts, I think? Brady Singer, 7 innings, 10. Tanner Houck, 6 innings, 10 Ks, and neither gave up a run. Those are 2 guys I would be looking at. And
you pitched today, Casey, and you actually were on him last year, is Mize for Detroit.
Yeah, he didn't pitch great today, though.
He had 4 Ks. He pitched 4 innings. I mean, he pitched okay.
4 1/3, but 5 hits, 2 walks. Yeah.
As you mentioned, his miles per hour is up 1 notch, and he looks good. But I mean, this guy was in the minors. He was lights out. I mean,
he was great, and he also generated my favorite fantasy sports name of all time, of Mice and Men. Oh,
Johnny.
Yes, it was a brilliant name. Let me ask this: Shane Bieber. I'm going to ask a Cleveland question. Obviously, he's been completely dominant so far. What's going on there?
Well, one start.
They're prancing him around like a show pony so they can trade him in 2 months.
Yeah.
Well, he's sure looking really good, but is it
just
if
he's healthy?
He's a Cy Young winner. You know how good he can be.
If he's healthy, he's a top 10 pitcher American League. And I agree with Casey. I think if Cleveland by All-Star break is not in the playoff hunt, I think he'll be shopped. Because he's a free agent.
And if he's looking this good, they're going to get a lot for him.
He's a free agent at the end of the year. Well, the thing is, it's a 3-month rental, so they're not going to get that much. No, we won't get that much for him.
You could get a lot. I mean, there are times where if he's looking this good, I mean, do you guys remember when people would trade for people like Pedro Martinez or Randy Johnson? They gave up a lot of prospects. That's not just any 3-month rental. I agree with you. If Shane Bieber returns to kind of being more middling or solid, they're not going to get a ton for him.
I like Bieber. I liked him beginning of the season. I think when he's healthy, he's really good. His health issues kind of concern me. He's older now, but I do like Bieber a lot. I don't think he's available on the waiver wire. He has to be over 60%.
No. I was more talking about trades. I was wondering,
trade-wise,
would you trade him if you had him on your
I would
roster?
trade for him if the other
person was trying I don't think his value is that
high.
Yeah, I don't think
you would sell high. Yeah, I would too.
Yeah.
I mean, he can't get any higher than he is right now.
No, not at all.
Willie Nelson.
somebody that I thought looked awful, that if I had him on my team, I would try to shop him, but I don't think he'll get much, is Chris Sale for the Braves. I mean, he did not look good, and he had all this hype going into the season. I just don't think he has – I don't think he's the same pitcher he was 2 years ago. I really don't. And I didn't draft him in any of my leagues because of that. I feel his career is almost over. I don't think he has the same stuff he had back in the day. And again, if he's on my team, I would try to shop him around and try to get rid of him because
I don't think you can. I think I would hold on to him and hope he has a
one good start,
two good starts, something like
you
that.
Could, but while you couldn't get that much for him, but you could get a guy. This is the kind of guy I think you could get is like Aaron Savale. He went to Tampa Bay. He doesn't have a hugely great resume, but I think he's going to have a good year because he's in Tampa Bay. I don't know for sure, but what do you guys think of Savale?
I hate this. So no, let me preface it real quick. I can't stand Tampa Bay pitchers. They never go above 5 or 6 innings.
They start in the second or third inning.
It's just a revolving door. I don't really pick up any Tampa Bay pitchers for that reason. I like pitchers that will pitch 7, 8 solid innings.
I don't like Tampa Bay relievers, but
I can't figure it out.
The only Tampa Bay pitcher I would want, and it might be somebody you can target. I don't know when he's supposed to come off the IL. Is Shane McClanahan? I'm not sure when he's.
He's electric.
Yeah. I'm not sure he's going to
year.
I think he's out for the whole year, but he could come back in September.
Yeah,
but
I wasn't sure.
I have him stashed. In Dynasty. That's a good one to do. But you guys don't like Zach Eflin or anything like that? I mean,
got rocked. He did not look good his first start, but again, it was his first start of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I like Zac Efron a lot. Eflin, I'm not a huge fan of.
Zac Efron, I like some of his movies.
I love his dance moves. He's unbelievable. Great actor, great body, great personality, unbelievable kid. But I mean, Eflin, I'm not sold on it. I know people think he's like the next Cy Young, and people love this guy. But I don't value him that high.
I don't think he's the next Cy Young at all.
Casey, do you think he's overvalued in the American League, or do you think his value is right?
Who's that?
Zac Efron.
I'm not. Well, Zach Eflin is pitching great for Tampa Bay. I think he's valued right. I think he's a top 25 pitcher, top 30 pitcher. I think he produces a little higher than that, but that's where he's valued. I don't know. I watched him I think he was in Philadelphia for a couple of years. Where I saw him get hit around.
Wait till you hear my answer on Zach Eflin.
Now, what's your favorite Zac Efron movie?
Neighbors.
Mine is Zac Efron. I like the musical he did.
You like High School Musical?
High School Musical, yeah. I like that.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Now, here, listen to my answer on Zach Eflin. I think he is overrated and underrated. It just depends on who you're talking to. He's that kind of player.
Yeah.
Because there's some people who just think he sucks when he's actually a really solid pitcher. And then there's other people who are like, he's the next Cy Young, and that is complete nonsense. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, I stay away from Tampa pitchers, though.
We know you do. All right. Casey, this is a guy that you have been high on, and you, I think, are rostering him in both the leagues I'm in with you. Cole Ragans. I know you love him, but is he somebody to sell high on? Is he somebody to buy low on?
I think he's somebody to buy.
But are you buying low?
I don't think you have to buy low. I think you'd be buying high on him right now. He's pitching well.
Right. Okay, that's what I was asking.
That's the problem. No, I'm not selling him. I think he's the real deal, especially in a dynasty league. Redraft league, I don't think any pitcher is unattainable just because it's redraft and anything can happen. But he's got electric stuff. It's from the left side. He's in a pitcher's park. He's young. The only issue you have is the same thing with Yuri Perez. Is he going to run into Tommy John here in the next year or two? But he's not can't miss, but he's got as high of a ceiling with a high floor of any of the young pitchers.
What about Brandon Pfaadt? What do you see him?
I have him in a couple leagues. I'm a fan. I don't like Arizona as a hitter's park. And he's going to be going up against the Dodgers and he's going to be going up against the Padres. I look at that stuff that matters to me. Also, he struggled last year when they gave him a chance. But he's a guy I'm willing to take as my fourth starting pitcher, somewhere around there, third or fourth, who has the upside to be the third or second performer on your team.
Okay, now I'm totally shifting gears. Sometimes when I'm just looking at the player list and I'm thinking, All right, where are we valuing these players? So I just looked at the hitters, and I see Michael Conforto is the number 4 hitter in Yahoo, or number 4 player in Yahoo.
Yeah, he's tearing the cover off.
We know that's not going to continue, but this is a bold prediction. I think he's going to end up on the waiver wire later this year.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think he will, only because I've never, in the 6 or 7 years looking back, ever seen him complete a full season without a shoulder injury or some sort of prolonged IL stint.
I mean, he also doesn't perform at this level. He's not going to hit.
No, but when he came up, he was a pretty high prospect who had a good approach at the plate and had power. They were predicting 270, 280 with 25 plus home run potential.
Sure.
So it's not that he can't do it. The problem is, he's in San Francisco where they haven't had a 30 home run hitter since Barry Bonds, and B, he can't stay healthy. And he's only getting older, which makes you less likely to stay healthy. So I would own him right now with the expectation that I'm going to be dropping him probably by the end of May.
All right.
I would own him, start him in the month of April, and not
run him into the ground.
and because I think he's an April guy. I don't think he'll continue this pace. I don't think he'll hit 400, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, when a player's playing that well, play him.
Yeah, I think it's somebody. I mean, I picked him up in a bunch of leagues just for that reason. I'm gonna put some guys on the bench who aren't hitting their weight, and I'll start Conforto, and that's what I'll do, because April games mean just as much as it means in September. I mean, in fantasy, especially rotisserie, and you gotta take advantage of this. It's just a trend. Conforto in April, pick them up. Go.
All right, Casey, I'm going to ask you about Anthony Volpe. You're the Yankees guy.
Anthony Volpe.
I love him.
He's doing great.
Has he arrived? I think, look, the guy was 2020 last year, batting 209. He was never a low average hitter in the minors. He's always been a solid 280 plus. So yeah, he was bound to figure it out. And so if you take somebody who's 2020 plus at 209 and make him 270, you got to imagine he's closer to a 30-30 type of area, or 25-30. Right. And it's a good lineup. He's got a really long leash because he's kind of the anointed one there. He's got other stars on the team, so the focus never has to be on him. I just think it's a perfect environment for him to begin to I guess, grow into the potential. So to me, and I'm a Yankee bias, I'll put it out there, by the way, but I'm also a Yankee hater in some ways, because I always predict that I personally am going to be disappointed. So
we always hate our own team.
Right. So I think he's going to be a star eventually. And I think you're starting to see that ascent right now.
All right. I'm going to ask about one more player and then we'll wrap up on this. And listen, if you guys want to bring up particular players, go right ahead. But I'm just looking at the list, and I'm curious about Bryce Terang. He's
a huge pickup. I mean, he's like one of the big pickups this week.
He's 6 for 6 on stolen bases this year, I think.
Yeah.
Well, the Brewers as a team are like 12 for 12.
He's got second base and shortstop eligibility. So
he's a huge pickup. He's been being picked up in most leagues percentage wise. I think he's leading the league and being picked up in all these waiver wire right now. I mean, he's not going to keep it up, but he's another guy. You can pick him up and
give him a tryout.
I don't know how long his leash is. Like if he goes on a cold streak, because he's a utility guy. He was never an everyday kind of guy for them.
Well, that's how they played him. But I mean, he was a pretty high prospect. So
right. But I mean, Sal Frelick was too. And now they have Sal Frelick as a utility guy. And I think as whichever one's the hot hand is going to get the run there. And you got, is it Tyler Black? Tyler Black in the minors is one of their top prospects. They expect him to be up sometime in June or July.
I haven't been paying attention to Jackson Churio and how he's actually been doing. Has he been doing?
He's been a stud. Yeah,
he hit a home run days ago.
Right.
Jackson looks good. He's a future all-star.
He's batting 350 on the season. So
that's a pretty good start. Good start.
He's playing well.
But the
Mets lost today, so they have not won a game in baseball. They have not won.
They have not won a single game.
But they play a doubleheader today, and it's 0-0 third inning. But the Mets are just not a good team. I don't know why.
Who's winning? The Bears. All right, let me ask. Let me ask one last question before we wrap up.
Okay.
This is one that I'm running into in the Dynasty League. I scooped up Shohei Ohtani, the pitcher, got cut. Now, you can stash him. And listen, in a redraft league, obviously completely off. You don't care about it at all.
You don't pick him up. He's not pitching.
But do you hold him in a dynasty or keeper league when you can't even put him in the IL spot because he's an active hitter?
See, that's the problem.
That's what I didn't know. I thought he would be.
You
on
can't
the
be IL for the pitching side.
Right.
Yeah, you can't have what's the old saying? You can't eat your soup. You can't eat your soup, and I don't know what it is. But you're right.
I mean, if you have pudding if you don't eat your meat.
Yeah, I mean, if you have room on your bench for him, great. If you don't, and it's going to cost you,
Pink Floyd reference.
Yeah, it's a weird situation. I get it, but again, if it's one of these keeper leagues or one of these dynasty,
if I had the space on the end of my bench, I mean, I probably would in a dynasty league just because.
It depends on how you're building your team too. Like if you don't have a stud pitcher this year and you're not actually sure you're going to compete this year, I think you hold him. But it's hard. I have to say, I scooped him up and I thought I was going to be able to stash him in IL, and then I realized, oh no,
you can't. No.
That's why he got cut.
Yeah, I was going to say if he could have been on.
Nobody's going to cut him if they can stash him on IL.
Right.
But I looked at it. I was like, I can't believe he got cut. I added him, and then I was like, oh, I got a tough bench position. And not only that, but I'm the guy with Noelvi Marte. So I got 2 spots right now that are just weighing me down. In any case, them's the breaks, as they say. So we'll keep this up, guys. It's our strategy show every Thursdays. You guys are beginning the waiver wire show next Tuesday. I know you didn't do it this week because we weren't far enough into the season.
Yes.
But if you want to
Tuesdays, 4:00.
Tuesdays, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. That's Ross and Casey's Waiver Wire Show. We're back here Thursdays, also 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. This is a strategy show where we just talk about player evaluation in general and what we want to do with our rosters. We got a bobblehead creeping up. That's the Joey Votto one. Yep, there you go.
He bangs.
This is the first season in a long time with Joey Votto on a different team. Ross, how are you feeling about that?
Is he in the I don't think he's in the majors right now. Is he? Case?
I didn't see him.
I know he's on the in the Toronto organization.
Syracuse, I think, is their minor league team for the Toronto Blue Jays, I believe.
Sounds right.
It's weird. It's actually very weird not to have Joey Votto on the Reds. Yes,
it's got to be weird. All right, guys, we'll be back next week. Casey, Ross, thanks for joining us here. It's a great show. We look forward to continuing to talk with you. Keep vigilant on your roster, guys. You don't win a league by just drafting and then sitting there. You got to pay attention. There's lots of changes happening. Come to us. We'll let you know what's going on. Thanks for watching.